It is said that history is written by the victors, and the same can be said about video games. Console generations are and have always been defined by the few great games that become transcendent or go down in history as one of the greats. The games that...
What color is player 1? It's 2009. You're playing Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and you clearly see the 4-player colors, and then someone presses the home button. Now, on the home screen, not a single one of the pointer colors matches the colors that were just in the game.
Hello, I'm Scruffy, and today I'm talking video game music. Not Pikmin music, not yet. I'll be getting to that. In this video, I want to talk about the music in a different franchise of Nintendo's. And
since their debut as enemies in Splatoon 1's story mode, people have wanted to play as Octolings. In the first game, Inklings were the only playable species, so this was only possible through hacking. In Splatoon 2, playable Octolings were added.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Total Biscuit. After playing Hatred, I expected perhaps that I'd have a little bit more of an emotional reaction than I did. I found myself not actually caring at all about the violence that was going on the screen.
Let me ask you something to start this video off. Do you like to play dress up? Well, I certainly do, and I think that deep down inside just about everybody does. Alright, I get it, you're hardcore, and don't play silly girl.
It's an industry that's revolutionized every area of entertainment, from television to sports to movies. The video game business rakes in more than $20 billion a year, making bigger bucks than even Hollywood.
I love simulators. From the sky to the ground and everything in between, I've always been a fan of simulators. My most played game on Steam, and subsequently my most played game ever, is a simulator. In concept, simulators should be boring, yet most
My best friend died today. In the abstract, a human death is nothing, of course. An insignificant blip in a sea of billions. But the world is not abstract. Reality.
Oh boy, okay, so we've been working on this since August. There's been, I think, 16 interviews in total. Let's see how this goes. So you know Valve, right? The company responsible for Half-Life, Portal, Left 4 Dead, Team Fortress, Counter-Strike, and more.
So, if there were two words that could describe everything wrong with multiplayer games today, only one pair comes to mind. Live service.
The reality is, what made Overwatch 2 was canceled.
Congratulations, sir! Your Krabby Patty pizza is here!
Where's my drink?
Gamers have long had to put up with intrusive DRMs like SecureROM, Starforce, Arxan, and more recently Denuvo, all for the sake of delaying piracy. However, even the harshest of these have only managed to delay piracy, and none of them.
If you take a look at Zelda runs on speedrun.com, you'll notice something strange. Nearly every single game in the franchise can be beaten in 1 hour or less. However, there is one exception to this that stands out like a sore thumb, and that is Twilight.
Imagine this for a second. An arena full of excited fans waiting to watch their favourite video game, but this hyper-competitive, high-octane electronic sport these guys are playing isn't doing too hot right now. It's been dominated by one incredibly powerful strategy.
If you were to get a pirated copy of Spyro Year of the Dragon all the way back at the turn of the century, you'd be able to play the game normally at first. Game crackers managed to bypass the game's crack protection just like they had every other major release at the time, and since the first few worlds played normally, they assumed.
You know when a game is announced at an event and they show a gameplay trailer, have you noticed that it doesn't really look like normal gameplay? It's oddly smooth and seemingly planned, like the person behind the controller is an actor, performing.
Some of my best memories playing games are when I was playing with friends, whether it was sitting on the couch together enjoying a round of Mario Kart or Halo, playing a shooter online like Overwatch, or sinking hours into RuneScape or World of Warcraft. I've always had the most fun playing games with my friends.
Omori's origins go all the way back to more than a decade ago. In December 2011, an artist with the pseudonym Omocat created an illustration.
Okay, so during the development of Alien Isolation, the game had a pretty basic save system. It would automatically cache your data whenever you tripped invisible checkpoints, which were dotted throughout each level. It was added because it was...
Imagine, for a second, the year is 2009, and you sat down to play some Modern Warfare 2. As you boot up the game, you're treated to a beautiful main menu. It's clean, empty almost in its simplicity, but is immediately understandable. With a single flick of the thumbstick and the press of a button, you're into the
You've almost certainly played one, a video game that spans across multiple discs. They have been the one constant of disc-based gaming, as we've jumped from CDs to DVDs to Blu-rays, and even the weird ones like Sega's GD-ROM.
This is a story of a game titled The Stanley Parable. The version that most people know and remember is probably the one that was released in 2013 and made by
If you grew up playing online games in the late 2000s, especially on console, you are a lucky person. Experiencing the growth of things like Xbox Live and even PlayStation Online was an extremely special time.
Ah yes, video games. Over the past few decades, they have grown so popular that they are pretty much impossible to avoid now. But don't take my word for it. There are raw numbers that confirm just how huge.
So there I was about to press publish on my Jiggle Physics video when this game dropped out of nowhere. This is Hi-Fi Rush, one of the coolest stylized games I've seen in a very long time, and of course...
Over the years, I've tried a few times to write a video on Portal 2. I've searched the game far and wide for that seed, the core idea that I could use as a foundation to write an entire video. But I've never really found anything that was worth a video. It's kind of obvious what makes...
You may have seen a resurgence of a meme floating around lately about how spectacular of a year 2007 was for gaming. There was the release of BioShock, Halo 3, Call of Duty.
2013 was an incredibly big year for gaming. We had releases like The Last of Us, which went on to become one of the biggest game series of all time. Grand Theft Auto 5, which I've talked about for long enough. And even the return of franchises like BioShock and Tomb Raider. All of these games had massive launches with a ridiculous...
The Witness is all about perspective. It's the only conclusion that I can think of that pulls it all together. It's a game about experiencing things multiple times and seeing something different each time. I loved this game. I also hated it. I think you should play it. I also think you shouldn't play it. I'm not...
In this video, I'll be discussing the controversial topic of race. In video games, a topic that I'm not an expert on, but I did do a lot of research for this video, plus I do have a couple decades of personal experience to draw.
This is a lollipop. It's a melee weapon for Pyro, and although it's just a collection of pixels on a computer screen, it's still worth $0.00139, or about 1/7 of a real-world cent. But there's something very interesting about this item, because I think it's about to break TF2.
Anyone who's been watching my channel for a while knows that I am a huge Rockstar fanboy. I feel like I mention their games in almost every video I make. I made a whole video essay about how amazing they are at creating virtual worlds. I stand in line to get their games at midnight. The last video I
The year is 2016, and Nintendo's current-gen console, the Wii U, was failing miserably. Yeah, this thing just wasn't flying off of shelves, especially compared to the Wii, the DS, and most notably...
While you guys were playing Horizon Forbidden West, the worst game ever made, and Elden Ring, the second worst game ever made, I was playing something certain to be overshadowed in the spring launch window.
There's something very special about minute barriers in speedrunning, as a single second can make a world of difference. While a 30-minute final time might just be 1 second slower than a 29-minute 59-second time, that 1 second means...
It's been over 35 years since the release of Capcom's Street Fighter. Note that I said Street Fighter, and not the much more popular and influential sequel Street Fighter 2.
So here's Thought for the Day for you. It's a shooter game about the horrors of war.
Turns out this video is actually pretty easy to write. In 2016, Dr. Jeremiah Appleton and his team ran a study where they would have gamers fill out surveys regarding their personality.
A little over 20 years ago, I played Final Fantasy VII for the first time, and since then, its soundtrack has sort of become a part of my life. I still listen to it on a regular basis, and nearly every track elicits a strong emotional reaction from me, both because of the role they play in the